Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of MMA Vision Analysis. This one, I'm here to talk about UFC 305's main event, the one that's going to take place in the middleweight division for the middleweight belt between current middleweight champion Dricus and former middleweight champion, the last stylebender, Israel Adesanya. I'm going to go into this fight in particular and specifically Alexander Volkanovski's prediction for this fight. Volka had a video speaking of this fight, and he said a lot of things about this fight. I spoke about some of the things that he said. This one I'm going to get into the actual prediction of how he thinks this fight will end. But before I get started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification to get all of this that is new from this channel, your channel, the one and only MMA Vision Analysis. UFC 305, August 17th, Perth, Australia is going to bring us one of the fights of the year. I really do believe so. I expect to see top performance from Dricus and Adesanya. So this one is going to be very interesting. There's much more than just the surface aspect of this fight. I understand that there is a back and forth, which I don't necessarily want to get into in regards to who is the quote-unquote African champion. We are all champion of people, champion of the world. I do understand tribalism plays a huge factor in human nature. But at the end of the day, let's try to steer away from the comments that were made from both sides in regards who is the true African champion, because I think this could really rub a lot of people off the wrong way, including Israel Adesanya. But we're not going to go into these, let's say, touchy subjects. Like I said, to me, they're both champion of the people. We are all people. And we are all on this planet. It's one planet, okay? I do understand that tribalism, like I said, plays a huge factor in human nature. But I believe when we are advertising to a worldwide audience, then we have to treat it just as that. It's a worldwide sport. With all respect to both sides here, but the comments in regards to who is the true African champion is just kind of that's... I understand why some people could be offended from such comments. And I believe that's going to add more into the intrigue of the fight. It's really going to add that much more fire to this fight. That being said, this fight is going to be a very close fight. I don't care what anybody says. It's very difficult to say this guy is going to beat the other, just because both guys are so evenly matched. I believe, at the end of the day, Adesanya lost his title to Sean Strickland. Strickland lost his title to Dricus. I do understand it's a bit of MMA math, as Chael Sonnen likes to put it. But at the same time, what I'm trying to say here is that these guys are so evenly matched. I said this about the middleweight division earlier this year, and I'll say it again. Prior to Strickland losing the fight, I said that this title is going to exchange hands a couple times this year. And it's already have once, and I believe it's going to happen again before the end of this year. Perhaps the night of UFC 305 will be that night. The reason I say that is because all of these guys are so close in terms of levels. I do understand when Adesanya is peak Adesanya, then yes, he is a league of his own. In all honesty, striking wise, very little opponent. It was very little rounds, small amount of minutes that he actually lost Adesanya. So that being said, I do understand that he lost fights. I do understand that he's actually lost rounds and fights. But at the same time, when Izzy is peak Izzy, it's very difficult for anybody in that middleweight division to stand toe-to-toe with him. Now, if that version of Izzy shows up against Dricus, then Dricus is going to have to do a lot more than just wrestling. I just don't see Dricus being as fast as Israel Adesanya. I don't think Dricus possesses the same quality movement as Israel Adesanya. We're talking about peak Izzy here. We're not talking about Izzy that fought Strickland or the Izzy that lost to Blachowicz rather, or the Izzy that lost the third fight between the two, first fight in UFC against Alex Pereira. I'm not talking about that Izzy. I'm talking about the Izzy that faced Costa, Whitaker, Gastelum. If that Izzy shows up, then Dricus is in for a heck of a night. This is actually exactly the thoughts of Alexander Volkanovski. Personally, I hate to make predictions. Hate is a strong word, by the way. But at the same time, all we're doing is we're expressing scenarios, possible scenarios. And out of these scenarios, we are picking the more likely outcome. Now, when I look at this fight here, to me personally, it seems like it's a very close fight. A matter of fact, a part of me wants to side with Dricus. I don't know why, but it just feels like the momentum is definitely with Dricus here. I could be wrong, obviously. This is not me siding, with one side over the other. This is not what I'm doing here. Huge fan of Stylebender. But Volkanovski seems to think, the teammate of the last Stylebender, Israel Adesanya, at the end of the day, seems to think that the level of focus that Israel Adesanya is going to bring to UFC 305 is going to be unmatched. It seems like, according to Israel's teammate at least, that Israel is laser focused and he has a target in sight. And that target is Dricus. A few months back, Israel Adesanya did make a statement, which is a very interesting statement, especially statements coming from guys like Israel Adesanya. You have to take those into consideration. He said, I'm not coming for titles. I'm coming for, quote-unquote, heads. I do understand that this feud became a little bit personal between the two just because there's the debate of who is the real African champion. I believe Dricus went as far as saying that he's the only African champion, which is, like I said, I could understand how this could be offensive to people, especially people that come from the continent of Africa. That being said, there is that aspect to it. There's an aspect of Adesanya wanting to win his title back, and there's the aspect of Adesanya losing the previous fight and wanting to prove himself. So there's a trifecta. Dricus, if Dricus does not, I really believe if Dricus wants to beat Adesanya, he has to take this fight to the ground. Standing toe-to-toe with Adesanya, with all respect to Dricus. I do understand if he lands once or twice. We are talking about a heavy hitter. But I really believe if he stands toe-to-toe with Izzy and Izzy shows up, the peak Izzy, then I could see how Alexander Volkanovski predicts that this fight's going to end in a finish from Izzy. He thinks that he's going to knock Dricus out. I don't know if I can disagree with him, just because if the peak Izzy shows up, then yes, this is a very, very plausible scenario. If you made it this far, appreciate you for sticking around. Please let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe for more.